Okay, we'll start with Arnie and Eugene.
Thank you, Dr. J. So actually, this week we work together to revise the discussion part and all your input about the table and everything. If you don't mind, we will send you the link again so you can see the revision part.
Okay. It's in the chat. Okay.
Yes.
Let me share screen. Okay, do you see it?
Yes. Which the one that we changed is the blue part as usual.
Oh, okay, so redefining clinical hyperprogression, the incidence, clinical implication, and risk factors of hyperprogression. Non-small cell lung cancer treated with immunotherapy. Incidence and risk factor of hyperprogression vary depending on the definitions used. Inclusion of new lesions in the assessment of HPD increases its incidence rate and similarly predicted a worse prognosis for patient with HPD as the original definitions. Therefore, incorporating new lesions is expected to provide more. Incorporating is expected to provide a more comprehensive that considers the extent of it. So first of all, incorporating new lesion is not providing definition.
Okay.
Incorporating is providing definition. To me, doesn't make sense. The sentence itself. So again, go back to the title where we wrote this to describe incidents, clinical implication, risk factors. And people look at the title and go to conclusion.
Thank you, Dr. J.
That considers the extent of tumor burden in patients undergoing immunotherapy.
Then how about making it into incorporating new lesions in the determination of HPD may enable to define HPD better, or does that sound good? Or
So to me, this is same idea repeated itself. I don't see value of this sentence. So I would do without it.
Okay, then let's say if we delete this sentence, our conclusions will be okay without any last
Like
additional.
closing sentence.
So here there is a mention of risk factor. So I think you should mention risk factor.
Okay.
This sentence is okay. Maybe this portion you can take it and rephrase it for the, yeah,
Okay.
for the conclusion in the actual.
Thank you, Dr. Che.
Two studies include the criteria. So TGK and TGR are two different criteria. So I would cite these next to TGK is cited as TGK, TGR is cited as TGR here. Don't lump
Okay.
them together. Is it one study?
Yes.
Do you have
the
the-
sub-
Only one.
So two studies included TGR. This is TGR delta. So TGK study is only one.
Correct.
So to me, this is repetition because you already said some studies used TGR, right? You're not describing what TGR is. I'm not sure why you put this here. I mean, it's all cited here. And you're saying in TGR,
Yeah, I think we just try to explain, touch base on every like major 5 definition. But I agree with you. I think we can.
We
So-
can delete it or we can revise it so it's not feels repetitive.
so I don't think this sentence is needed because you're not explaining anything. You're saying, oh, a study used it, and you already said that study used it. So when you're writing sentence, it has to provide a specific detail. When I read this, I get more confused. It says there's 5 definitions. I read this, I don't understand what's 5. It's either you explain number 1, this is number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. These are the 5 definitions. If you don't want to explain it, there are 5 definitions that has been used, mainly based on 2 concepts, which are TGK, which means, and TGR, which means so, period. So you go delve into concept, or you either go explain what they are. Right now, I mean, I read this and I get more confused. So work on
Understood.
it. So did anyone get immunotherapy as 4th line?
I don't think so.
Fourth line, there's no,
I think that there is no 4th line. It should be like only 3rd line.
Because usually we say 3rd line or beyond. If you ever have anything beyond that. Okay.
okay, yeah,
Double
we'll
check that.
double check, we will.
Yeah.
What was the reason you separated 2nd and 3rd? A lot of people do 2nd line and beyond.
I think since the start, we collect the data by 1st, 2nd line, and 3rd line. So we kind of know how many, like the history about the patient, like how many they already get the immunotherapy before the one that make it hyperprogression. So that's why since the start we collect it by the line of the treatment.
So now maybe it's too late for this article. But for multivariate analysis, it's always better to get that lumped so that there's only 2 groups.
Okay,
Understood.
we will change it then.
I don't know, calculated between patients. I would say it was compared.
Understood. I will.
Let's compare. Okay.
So on availability of the technique in our data, and is it on availability of the definition? Well, or due to the definition?
Yes, we originally intended that, but not sure whether that reads well or
I don't think it makes sense grammatically.
Okay.
Tell me what you want to say, because I don't understand the sentence at all.
So, here we try to explain why we decided to exclude two definitions. But to be honest, I don't think we have discussion on excluding Shingavi definition, and for Kato, it was due to the unavailability of gathering some data. But for Shingavi, I looked at, and its definition is combination of HPDC, and there is only one additional criteria, which is increase of more than 50% in tumor size, which we might have to able to do, but I'm not sure why we only looked at 3, to be honest. So just wondering how we should deal with this situation.
Okay, what do you think about this, Arnie?
Yeah, so actually we already discussed this with this before. I think we can just maybe just rewrite it again then. Before we write it quite long, and then we cut it for the Singavi one. For explaining the definition of the hyperprogressions. Actually, at first, if we can show the table of the definition of the hyperprogression, it will be easier for other people to understand it, comparing to we explain it one by one. But we cannot add on another table for like the 5 definition of hyperprogressions.
So we have to explain out of 5 why we chose 3.
Right.
And the Kato definition uses WHO, correct?
You mean
Can you repeat?
The Kato
WHO?
definition uses WHO criteria. Is that true?
I think we can, there are 3 criteria Kato required to evaluate, which is TTF, treatment time to failure, time to treatment failure, and this the pace,
The pace one.
evaluating image tumor volume by pace technique, and
But we exclude the pace one.
just give me a sec. I'm
Yeah, I'm opening also the. So there is 5 definitions, right, Dr. Che, like the Champion, Sadabusit, and Ferreira, that like 3 of them, like 2 of them using TGR, the one that using TGK only Sadabusit. The Singavi is like the copy of Champion, but they have like an extra criteria that they put resist more than 50%. So it's like Champion plus resist more than 50% for Singavi.
No, I'm saying, why did you, as two first authors, decide to do 3 out of 5?
Oh, because I think that's the only thing that we can do. First, we cannot do Kato because we cannot have the pace. We cannot do pace for Kato. And for Singavi, we didn't choose it because we feel, I talked with this with Minjong before. When the first time we decided we only choose 3, 4, 5, I discussed it with Minjong also because that's the only 3 that we can do. For Kato, first we cannot do pace calculation, and for Singavi, it's only been done once before, and there's only one paper talk about it. And after that, like Minjong said, there's no people who talk about it more, and it's like a copy of Champiat. So at that time, we decided that we not will do Singavi.
So is it a set number, 5? Is this something that people agree on? Because if you look at other papers, like for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's peer-reviewed manuscript 8, abstract only definitions 3. And that's what contains Shingabi. So when you say there are 5 proposed, was there like a review paper that says there's 5 categories? Where
Yes,
did you
the
get
JAMA
the 5?
paper. We refer to the JAMA paper introducing 5 main different definitions of HPD.
So so this is the JAMA paper?
That should be, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's cast best. So that paper is like the one who kind of collect all the definition of the HPD. It's a really good paper. They made the table, if I'm not mistaken, and the table is being used by a lot of paper. The table of the definitions.
So Kato used pace for all tumor volume assessment.
Yes, Kato using pace, and so Kato have 3, like using TTF, resist more than 50%, and progression of pace more than 2-fold. At the time, we discussed that we cannot do pace because pace is more about the volume than the things that we cannot calculate or count it.
Hmm. Can you show me the pace?
The article or the table of the definition?
The article.
Wait a second. Oh, can I share my screen to you, Dr. Che?
Hmm?
Or you want me to send the PDF?
You can share your screen.
You can see my screen now.
Mhm.
This one is the article by Kato about the first one in 2017. And
Just show me
She-
where the pace is. Or Arnie is taking time. Eugene, can you show me where the pace is?
I'm trying to find it, and actually, like, this paper, I think paste that word was introduced by Dr. Jian, and I reached out to her, and she told me the concept itself, the perspective acquisition correction, but I was not able to find that exact word in the Kato's paper. And in the paper itself, we only can find literally the word pace, which means progression, which is used to define progression pace, maybe the velocity of progression, something like that. And we thought, I just thought the pace itself is the technique used to calculate the volume itself, which is needed for the calculation of progression pace. So Dr. Jiang, could you help us to find the page? Yeah, I think she sent us the PDF itself.
This is a pace. I think I thought that was specific technique to make a volume, to calculate the volume of tumor. And when I wrote this explanation, this pace should be done when the CT scan performed. But we didn't use that pace in Northwestern Hospital, so that's why we couldn't use this definition because it didn't. The patient didn't receive that.
Perspective acquisition correction. So this 3D PACE,
Mhm.
when is it used? Motion correction during an acquisition of bold. What is bold exactly? Head of a patient. What is bold signal? Does anyone know?
Bold is the blood oxygenation level dependent image.
Oxygenation level. So this is only used in functional MRI.
Yeah, I think so.
This technique is not used in CT scans.
Mhm. In Northwestern.
So I think there's a lot of assumption making. So I'm equally in shock today as to how this happened. So let me explain. PACE means speed, P-A-C-E, in all small letters. It is not acronym. It is not capital letter P-A-C-E.
Right.
For you to make that into a capital letter, when none of it is actually used by Shumei Kato, is shocking. This is common sense. When someone uses pace as a speed, very common English word, and you turn that into a acronym, PACE, which is only used in functional MRI, is shocking. I don't know any other way to describe it. I know Shumei Kato, he's my friend. I know his work. I know what he did. I know he used WHO criteria. He did not use RECIST. And I don't know how this got, I know Dr. Jian was trying to help you, but I think it's still the responsibility of first authors to know what actually Shumei Kato did. If you read his article, you would know that he used WHO criteria in CT, not in functional MRI. So to me, again, I'm not talking about scientific, like a grammar here. I'm talking about scientific inaccuracy here.
I see. I apologize for making
Sorry, Dr.
assumptions.
Chen. We are sorry. We are apologize about it.
I'm really happy that I found this error because this is written by Kurdrak, and if Kurdrak reviews this paper, she'll trash this. It's her own paper, and we're not doing justice describing what they actually did, putting something that actually wasn't done. So I guess lesson learned here, never take a word that's not an acronym, turn into an acronym, okay? Even resist, no one writes resist in small letters, R-E-C-I-S-T. It's always an acronym, R-E-C-I-S-T. Kato, when Kato wrote in his paper, PACE, It's never in capital letters. It's all small letter pace. He just used that word as a growth speed. So don't assume or, oh, I just assumed, or I just thought this was. There is no assuming in science. Come on. There's so many inaccuracies I pick up every time I review. So again, writing a paper really means that any paper you reference, you know everything about what they did. Otherwise, you should not cite it. Or second guess. You can consult Dr. Jian and you can consult other people. But it's your job to see if is that the exact word that the author is trying to use. And I think right now we're not talking about deep science here. We're talking about, do not confuse pace with acronym pace. They're two very different things. I'm still in shock. I actually don't know what to say. So resist is one-dimensional. It only uses the largest diameter. WHO is two-dimensional. It's always perpendicular. Okay, and WHO is immune response assessment criteria. That's what Kato used. He chose to use WHO, and it's in his paper. Okay, it uses CT. So I don't know how this was used. This was very clear when we had discussion with Minjung when she wrote her review paper and meta-analysis. It just tells us that when you write paper, you need to strive to have depth. Exactly what they did. I don't want you to do projects just to get it done. Oh, I need to do the analysis, just write it and get it done. You have to understand the science, exactly what other groups have done and how they measured. If you don't understand it, ask. Minjung did all the work. You should ask Minjung, get her involved if you don't understand. Do not second guess and make this type of mistake, which is not tolerable in scientific community. I feel, I'm taking time to look at every word because I really want this to be error-proof. But I'm just encouraging you to understand the science, read each referenced article so that you understand what it is. Do not guess. Do not guess. If you don't know, ask people, but don't take that at face value. Look at it like Jiyoung looked at both, and it's functional MRI signal. And you have to correct for that by using PAC as an acronym PAC, okay? So I want this to be a lesson for all of you. Do not second guess. There's no guessing, okay? Read the paper again and again. And if you don't still understand, you should come to me. I cannot, find this at the last minute or the last publishable paper. This has to be first author's job to understand each concept. And if you don't know, oh, I actually don't remember why we selected 3 out of 5. I cannot tolerate this kind of comment. If you don't understand it at the beginning of the project, you ask me, why did we select it when we could have done this? Okay. You cannot say, oh, I don't remember. I want you to own your project. You're not here to help my project, okay? I'm not here to, it's your own baby, okay? It's like seeing a patient. If you're a patient, you have to know all the lab values, how patient have been doing. You have to know the whole history of the project, the data, details, how it was structured and analyzed, why we made this decision at each point. If you do not know, you're not entitled to be first author, period. Okay? Okay, so let's go back to the page the paper. Where is it? So Kato never used three-dimensional image technique, okay? And Kato used two-dimensional imaging assessment, which is the WHO criteria, but it's not unavailable. I guess if we have CT, we can manually do Kato's method, okay? We have the clinical course, so we can do TTF. We just didn't have bandwidth to do it, but we don't write it that way. I think Kato's definition was not replicated by other group. So we will say we use the three most widely used definition out of 5 definitions that were described. I think that's enough. You don't have to explain why. Singavi, same thing. HPDC, 50% increase in tumor size. By the way, is this the fifth definition? And you have definition of hyperprogression. And there's part where you explain there are five
Right.
definitions. Did you explain Shingabi here?
Shingabi, it's not explained as like detail, but because Shingabi is also using the TGK as Champia, the 2 studies in the middle of the paragraph indicates that Champia and Shingabi. And then the another study using the gap of TGR is indicating the Ferrara. And then the other one is the TGK is Sarabuzit.
Okay, so people who are new to the field, this is talking foreign language. So I think you have to plainly explain, go back to Minjung's paper. She did a great job there. And make a supplemental table of what are these 5 definitions and what's common, what's not common, and explain it in very intuitive way. And here, it's not our job to make them understand fully, but describe it in a way that makes it's visually like, oh, this is 5, and these 2 are using TGR, this is TGK, this is 50% difference, and you can just look at one table and get it. Okay, so use that. The Shingabi should not come. So when you say definition, you have to finish telling people about definition. Don't bring up a new definition here in another paragraph. Okay, to finish the definition explanation and say, here we explained everything about the 5 definitions. Here we selected 3 because they're more commonly used, period. You don't have to go and explain Shingabi definition here because it's repetitive. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. J.
No problem. That sound like too colloquial. We checked. Um. For all patients found by. Found by. I don't know if found by is the right word here.
I think we should use identified by.
Sure.
Yeah, I would take out the definitions.
Delete it. Okay, Dr. Che.
As identified as. Take out the.
Or maybe like none of the patients identified as HPD or NHPD underwent radiographic pseudoprogression.
None of the patients.
Like just starting the sentence as none of the patients identified as.
I will put it in the comment.
Yeah, that's,
Identified by the definition.
do you like by better? Identify.
Oh, wait, am I understanding? Oh, maybe as. Oh, I don't know.
Patients are
isn't that
not hyperprogressive disease, it's the tumor.
Identified to home?
So I'll say it like this. None of the patient identified as having HPD or MHPD underwent pseudoprogression. Okay, so
Good.
after you write sentence, think about what's the most succinct way to describe what you saw. Okay.
Got it.
So I'll put 5G, 5H, same here.
Five.
I'll put S here definitions because you used two different. maybe one of approaches to this sounds so we like to euphemize. We don't want to sound too confident or too pressing on, but this is too, it's like lacking maybe one of the approaches. No, I think that's being too modest.
We'll try to find another way then.
May you can do may aid in better define or
Sure,
may help better define HPD.
sure.
Assess maybe may help better assess. Yeah, maybe that's better. Incident. Incidents. So now so you have Champiad or here. And this is kind of exception.
Right, there are kind of lots of variations of the hyperprovision definition out there, and especially because we were trying to find incidence among NSCLC patients, so yeah, we included some other papers reporting that and try to explain their own definition. So that's what happened here.
It's too confusing if you write it this way. You already said there's 5 definitions out there.
Right, but not all of them investigated HPD incidence among non-small cell lung cancer. So, for example, Sarabujit only included head and neck cancer patients, so we were not able to provide incidence according to that definition.
So I understand all that, but the way you structure your story is important. When you have said that there's 5, you explain 5, and you here come up with, all different definitions. I understand that's for non-small cell data, but it's going to make readers more confused. They read this and what do you mean there's 5 and this is something that you haven't told us. Okay, you're the one who knows the data, but you are also one who makes the story.
Okay,
So how do you structure your story is very important.
understood. Then would it be okay for me to briefly explain about the 5 major definition regarding NSCLC? For example, like only 2 of them have NSCLC, include NSCLC patients, and their incidence was like this. And then the other papers using different definition from them reported incidence like this. That would be okay.
So before writing the numbers for the incidents, I would explain in the literature, there are 3 or 4, 5 different definitions used to calculate incidence. They are such and such and such, and according, and then you reference it all.
Mhm.
And according to these different definitions, their instance ranged from this to this and all that. You explain the numbers. You don't have to explain it by study, but you can. You can explain it and
Sure.
by the concept, let's say 2 definitions that use TGK or TGR, show the instance of this and that, whereas,
That sounds better. Yeah,
but you have to explain what they are first.
sure.
You can't just lump them together when people are already confused at the 5 definition you introduced.
Okay.
And you have to say that, compared to the 5 definitions that were used in lung cancer, there are, like these definitions have been used to report instances where, so again, there has to be sequence, logic. You can't lump them together. Think about the readers.
Understood.
Appear consistent with the literature as they are included in a reported range of instances. Okay, Liam, any input on this sentence?
Can we just keep it simple? Just say, therefore, our results are consistent with the literature.
Yes, period. It's
Mhm.
redundant.
you-
Now,
Got it.
Oh, you already type it. Okay. Then.
so be very succinct. Some of the things you guys write are very redundant. Now, people can see the range. Oh, okay, it falls in the range. That's therefore it's probably consistent. But also, is there a trend that definition that uses, TGK, TGR, which is always producing higher number, which is producing lower number? It's the same trend being replicated in our study. It looks like Sarabujid is higher than Champiad, and had, or it doesn't have to be Sarabujid or Champiad. Is the TGR based definition and TGK based definition, the trend for detecting more patients, is that still there? Is that the trend in non-small cell lung cancer? And is that the same trend, or is this a different trend that we see in our patients? So when you compare literature with your paper, with your own study, think about multidimensional comparison. Not just say, oh, they're consistent, not consistent. What trend were observed, and is that applicable in our study? Okay, so be more 3D than one dimensional. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Chen.
Sure.
So when you say, I know, I understand this is probably 8, but I would still cite it here because people would, want to know what it is.
Okay.
Is this Champia?
Right.
Yeah.
So Dr. Kurdrak told me this. This is for you guys to learn. Like when she saw this in clinic, she thought no one would believe in hyperprogression and no one would publish it because no one wanted to believe it. So she didn't publish her data in UCSD. And then when she saw Champia, the French group's paper, she was so encouraged. It's not just me. There's another group of people who believes in me, my data. So she now took the courage and published it in Clinical Cancer Research. And she worked with Kato to publish that paper. So she wrote the paper a long time ago before Champia, but she didn't have courage because she knew no one would believe it. But now Champia published the paper. She's like, now I can get my paper out. So if you understand this story of scientists and their agony and all that, still people who are, world-class immunologists, they all say, I don't believe in hyperprogression. We should not publish such paper. They reject it, okay? And too bad they're not clinicians. They're PhDs or MDs working only in the lab. Or surgeons who do not treat patients with immunotherapy. They're immunologists by training, but they don't get to actually treat patients, understand what's going on in clinic. So even in science, your conviction, it's very much limited by you actually experienced. That's too sad. So in science, we the pioneers, same thing with the transplant story. Like the pioneers, people don't understand why you're doing this. So it's our job to make this very simple, succinct, accurate, presentable, understandable. If you write it in a way, oh, I read it, I don't understand. It's too complicated for me. There's TGK, I don't understand what TGK is, TGR is. There's so many jargons that I don't understand. I'd rather not read it and not believe in the story, period, okay? So it's still upon us, our duty, to make them review it as easy as possible, make them understand, presentable, so when you say, the median number of previous lines of therapy was 2, 4, and what does that mean?
Sorry, 4 should not be there. Just 2. So they report the median number of treatment lines the patient received. So
So this is, I think this is a repeated pattern. There's a lot of redundancy. There's like random information here. And then you talk about OS, and there's now CRPR out of blue. And then you suddenly say 26 times risk of death. So I guess, so what is the best way to present clinical data? This is like clinical trial data. I think Haesung wrote a lot of the clinical trial report. So clinical trial results are written. It's almost like it's a retrospective analysis, but it's, think of it as a clinical trial. So you don't start with number of lines. You don't say OS was compared because that's no brainer. That's redundancy. And if oh, what happened?
Oh.
Why did it move? So so look at how DART trials are reported. Okay. It's
Mm.
so it's I guess the response rate. So if the point is how many CRPR-SD is not the point, right? And we're not talking about the incidence here. This whole paragraph is dedicated to that HPD has really high worse overall survival. So if that's your goal, to say that and I feel like I said it's important to look at how many patients were looked at in that study. Is it, you know, so in a study of 200 patients, is it non-small cell lung cancer? Are they treated with immunotherapy? These are basic information. Of course, prior line of therapy may be important, but you don't have to say it. So basic information of the study, and then you said there, the overall survival was worse, and then in the parenthesis you can say median overall survival was so and so respectively with hazard ratio and p-value of such. Period. That tells you about one sentence. Tells you about how bad that study result was. I mean, just write it like this does not flow well. On the other hand, the first paper that introduced showed negative association. Okay, so you don't say a paper introduced Sadabuzid HPD or Champiad HPD. Okay, this is not the right way to explain things because this is something we made up, HPDS. It's not a concept used elsewhere.
Understood.
And then the cancer, PFS was shorter. OS did not differ between So when you write paragraph, what is the main goal of this? What are you trying to achieve? That are you trying to say consistent with previous research in terms of association between survival outcome? Then you talk about OS. I think that half of the paragraph is used to say, well, OS was not predictive, only PFS. Okay. Was that consistent with our study? Like, if you read this paragraph, I'm kind of confused as to what the main message is. Okay, Arnie, what is the main message here?
So I know about this paragraph. So actually, we want to talk about the OS and the PFS that we find, and we compare to our study. We found in so it should be like what we found and compare it for the study that it's already been done before. We want to try talk about the Champiat and the Sadabusid, what they found in their study, and compare it with us. I think that's kind of the things that we want to put actually.
Or Eugene, what were you trying to say here?
So basically here, we cited many articles that showed association between HPD and OS or PFS, and they all confirmed the negative association between them, but it was hard to dissect every single like results because they used different definition. So we kind of chose to focus on only two main articles overlapping with our own, the definition that we used in our paper, the main definition. And I acknowledge it's not consistent totally. It's partially consistent maybe. So, but still there are many articles who showed worse OS and worse PFS in HPD patients, despite a little bit difference in definition. So not sure how to well describe that. And
so again, if you're not convinced, if you're not sure, don't write it. Okay. I think there's a trend that if I ask you first authors, you're not sure. So you have to convince yourself, is this the right information in the right place? And am I really enforcing my story here? If you don't know, don't write it. Okay.
okay.
So when you write paper, you're being very selective as to, oh, I only looked at this. I only citing this. Okay. And there's a reason for it because there's a logic. You're spending too much space in things that are, I don't think it's important. So you could say, so if you want to, let's say, look at two definitions, so you can't just say consistent, because how do you know it's consistent? Are you asking the readers to go back and look at what our numbers is and go back? So you have to say, our hazard ratio, when using the Sadabusid definition, we had hazard ratio, overall survival hazard ratio of this. When this compared to the original Sadabusid paper, this is comparable, or this is not comparable. And if you don't want to talk about PFS, you don't have to talk about PFS. If you want to talk about, Champiat, we looked at this in our paper of 100 something patients in non-small cell. This is the predictive value of hyperprogression for overall survival with hazard ratio of this. This is compared to the original Champiad paper hazard ratio that showed this. The original paper did not show overall survival prediction. And this is HPD compared to non-HPD. Is non-HPD including stable disease and responders, or is this the PD that is non-HPD? I don't know how to so you have to say you're comparing apple to apple, not apple to orange. Okay, so you have to show what our number is in this setting, but in original paper it was a head and neck cancer setting of 300 patients. They were treated with immunotherapy, but their hazard ratio was this. So this was comparable, not comparable. This is opposite. I mean, you have to show. You have if am I going to focus on only OS, which for me makes sense. I already told you PFS is not what you want to use to predict with HPD. I think I said it multiple times. We don't want to look at PFS only, even if it's clinical progression. It's redundant. Okay, because HPD definition includes progression. You don't want it's like post-transplant malignancy and rejection. If two things are happening at the same time, you don't want to use that. It's only the baseline factor that you want to use it to predict the final outcome. So overall survival is indeed final outcome. So I would only focus on OS. I don't want to mention PFS here. And then I want to really go deep on what's the difference in hazard ratio. Is it because of, and then you have to explain what our data is coming from and what the other original paper data is coming from. Is it because it's head and neck? Is it because it looked more further lines of therapy? You can't just say consistent and just pour out irrelevant data like this. It's very irresponsible. Okay. More comprehensive assessment. As having patients are not disease.
Understood.
Perhaps it's colloquial. Let's not use such language. We should be aware. We should choose to continue. We should be aware, and we should consider, and we should be aware of and consider, take out the we, and consider continuing therapy for potential clinical benefit. one question. So I think this paper is pretty compelling. That's looking at the FC portion of the each antibody. And I know you found this article, but I would suggest that you read relevant article to see if there's any more articles that suggests the similar mechanism, okay? I'm just
Sure.
really hoping that there is one more article backing up this concept. And I think it's so important because this gives us hope that, oh, it's just the problem of engineering the monoclonal antibody. If you make it without the FC portion, then you can really prevent hyperprogression. Okay? So I'm just hoping it's more than one group.
Sure.
Blocking PD-1 expressed cancer cells using anti-PD antibody promoted lung cancer. I'm trying to understand this sentence. Can you explain?
Sure. So this paper, they looked at the PD-1 expressed in non-small cell lung cancer cells itself, not on lymphocytes. And when they blocked that using anti-PD-1 antibody, that actually promoted lung cancer. So I thought this would be another mechanism of hyperprogression. So, and they used non-small cell lung cancer cell lines. So
So here you say several proposed mechanism. You have FC portion theory here for macrophage.
mhm.
Now you're citing this paper. And you're still saying several mechanisms. To me, it's only two. I don't know if this second paper deserves its place here. What do you say to that comment?
I so this paper, the second paper was published in oncoimmunology journal in 2018, and I saw it in the review paper for hyperprogression mechanism, and amongst others, I chose it because it's dealing with non-small cell cancer cells. I thought it would be okay to choose it, but
What do you think about that, Arnie?
So basically, when dealing with the mechanism of the hyperprogression, it's quite hard to find for the non-small, like specifically for the non-small lung cancer that if we want it. So basically, even it's several, I think we only collect like what Eugene say, like the proposed mechanism, like about two about it, and basically it's also we find it in for the mice. For a mice, can we just change it into like we found two mechanism, not several proposed mechanism, to make it more like the one that we explained?
So there's a reason we record all these sessions. Dr. Min Jung gave us very nice presentation about the mechanism of hyperprogression. And there's a it's a really nice talk, and she made nice PowerPoint slide. So I want you to go back to it and listen and learn. Now, when you propose preclinical model, there has to be a thought process clearly defined. So if you say there are several proposed mechanisms of hyperprogression, you have to say across all tumor types, across different cell line, different mouse models, okay? What are the most believed, most validated mechanisms that have been proposed? And are people saying there's only 2 or only 5? What is macrophage really the key? Or is it the PD-1 axis that can be double-edged sword? So what is the scientific community really saying about the whole topic of hyperprogression? You cannot select only mouse models. You cannot select only lung cancer models here. If you want to, you have to say it out loud. I only looked at the lung cancer with mouse clinical model that try to explain the mechanism of hyperprogression. Then you're immune to all this blame, okay? When you say there are several proposed mechanisms of hyperprogression and only say these 2, it's scientific inaccuracy. You say it as if this is what the scientific community explains. These are the 2 main theories, which I don't think it's true, okay? If there's a lot of mechanisms people center on interferon gamma pathway being, this way. We talked about this with Dr. Taegon Kim. We had a very nice, it was all recorded session. That's why we record all this. There are many different immune cells, dendritic cells. There are many different immune cells that can be at play here, okay? And for you to just mention these 2 papers with this is, it's really an example of scientific inaccuracy. You cannot just select one paper. Oh, I think this would be a good paper, and just select. So the way you select paper is really important. That's why you have to read all important papers in that. And that hyperprogression is not a big field. Haesung did radiomics paper review. It's huge. It's several hundred papers. Hyperprogression mechanism papers are less than 10, okay? You can sit down and read all of them, okay? The mechanism, I'm not talking about clinical mechanism, I'm talking about preclinical mechanism. There are not that many. You can still read them, and then you can summarize them, and where you can make them into a supplemental table. And I know Min Jung did a nice job in summarizing that in the PowerPoint. So at least show the readers that what is the current state of the art understanding, and, first it actually says the macrophage can boost tumor growth by binding. Okay, this is okay. Mouse model showed blocking PD-1 expressed in cancer cells using antibody. So this is not explaining mechanism. This is explaining phenomenon. Like when you give PD-L1, in most cases, do you know what happens? Lung cancer cells die. Okay? That's why PD-1 drugs are approved.
Right.
This is saying the phenomenon. If you give PD-1 antibody, lung cancer cells don't die, they grow, okay? So when you say their mechanism and say, oh, do you know what happened if I give PD-1 antibody to lung cancer cells? They grow. This does not have any explanation of mechanism. The first sentence has to throw your idea, like the first one, the macrophage. It has nothing in here, okay? So I'm just trying to teach you, this is also writing class 101. You have to have a main mechanism, an idea for each first sentences. And here and then here it just says suppressive effect, but how? Like what pathway? And this is proliferated macro. This just tells us that the cancer cells are suppressed, or so if I read this, there's nothing mechanistic here. Oh, in fact, some cell lines show growth. That's all I get here. So again, this is trying to teach you guys how to write ideas. So let me use this as a teaching example. So can you pull up reference 37 and share the screen?
Yes, I can.
So you have to see the wood, not the tree. Okay, the woods.
Sure.
for
Could you unshare your
Field.
screen? Is it being shared? Can you see the,
I can see your computer screen.
oh, sorry for, I'll try again. Okay. I think,
I think there's a definition problem.
this paper was the paper that I cite.
So when you cite paper, also look at to see, is this journal really impactful journal? Okay,
Okay.
okay, show me.
Can't you see right now? I think I'm sharing the article.
But
Oh, you want me to go down or?
yeah, send me the link. Let me drive it.
Or
It's hard to.
okay. Not sure whether it will be working in your computer, but you can try it, or I can send you the file itself.
Yeah, send me the file itself.
Okay.
It goes to 서울대학교.
Oh, I'm not sure. Okay, PDF. Yeah. Yeah, actually, I was trying to look at the Minjung's presentation, but yeah, I was not able to. But we will definitely do that.
I will find it again. I think it's around December, I think. The time when I back to the lab. I think so.
So she's your best resource. She read all the relevant papers. She summarized it, did meta-analysis. So if you're not sure, she can be your best resource.
Agree. We're gonna reach out to her. Sorry, I think time is taken to download it. My computer is so. Actually, can anyone? Oh, Yeah, I'm almost there. Or can Dr. J, can you go to the next part? I think we're almost done. While I'm sending you the PDF file, I'm still downloading it.
Okay, let's take a 10-minute break. It's 10 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay, I am back. Let's look at the paper.
Yes, I uploaded the PDF file in the chat room.
Yeah, let me share screen. So this is it's coming from Thomas Jefferson. Mm. So clinical progression, expression, urine cell line expresses PD-1, cell viability, biological significance of tumor expressed PD-1 in vivo. For flare, hyperprogression. Increase availability in the cell line following PD-1 blockade. So as you can see, percent change in cell viability relative to wild type. PD-1 knockout, PD-1 overexpressed. If you knock out PD-1, they grow faster. Or like, I guess, compared to the overexpressors. So this is knockout experiment. F is you give IgG.
IgG was a control group compared to anti-PD-1 antibody.
So our A is anti-PD-1. Okay, anti-PD-1. You in the overexpressed group, you can actually see cells are higher in proliferation because it's already knocked out. It doesn't do anything. And knockout here. Is here. So PD-L1 highly expressed group is the one that will experience so which group expresses PD-L1 more? So
I guess-
PD-L1, pardon?
So if you look at the right side of the figure C, I think that was the main result of this paper. So for the cancer cells, not like lymphocytes and other cells, they compared cells with PD-1 or without PD-1, and then when they gave anti-PD-1, which is expressed as like yellow, red antibody shape, the tumor actually grows compared to the cancer cells without anti-PD-1 antibody.
So tumors, so we're not talking about macrophage, we're talking about tumor cells. We're not talking about PD-L1, we're talking about PD-1. And we're not
Right.
talking about PD-L1 antibody, we're talking about PD-1 antibody. Okay,
Okay.
so I guess that's the limitation of this study, right? Because we don't care about PD-L1 expression, which always we always look at. We don't care about drugs like atezolizumab, which is PD-L1 antibody. This is a solely experiment done with a PD-1. But the hyperprogression occurs with both anti-PD1, anti-PDL1. But anyway, so this is a cell line model that PD1 axis is important in suppressing growth, but blocking that, the tumor can grow faster. So if you, I think that's the whole story here. And how, and you know, PD1 activate upregulates pro-apoptotic proteins. That's one possibility. More important will be determining the complex consequence of phosphatase. So the phosphatase interaction, like the SHP1/2, is going to be important. And then there's a degradation of JAK kinase, dephosphorylating STAT3. So I guess before this study, I guess no one measured PD1 level in non-small cell lung cancer because they're the first report. So how I would view this paper is that, well, I don't know if the study was replicated by other group. So that's also important, whether it's true or false. You can see papers citing this article. This was published in 2018. So it's been a while. It's been like 5 years, right?
Right.
If 5 years no one confirmed this finding, then there's a problem. Okay.
Okay.
So see if any group cited this paper and built based on this paper. Okay. Also,
Okay.
the key is, if you look at the title, you don't understand the mechanism. What does that mean? So the key is, if PD1 is overexpressed in lung cancer cell line. By the way, this is it all cell line? No, it's
Yes,
it's a xenograft. So if you give PD1, it showed that it actually grew faster than the control. Okay. Anyway, the idea is the PD1. So we talked about PDL1 on tumor cell usually, and PD1 is expressed on immune cell. But if PD1 is expressed on lung cancer cell, it can be pro-apoptotic molecule. So if you inhibit pro-apoptotic molecule, you can make it grow faster.
understood. Yeah.
So that's what they showed. It, you know, so I don't know if this is mainstream. I don't know where at year 2023 where the evidence is mostly. But you shouldn't just select this, 2018 article and say this is the top 2 mechanism, okay?
Understood.
So just make it more comprehensive, and you don't have to spend time explaining like you did. It's a lot of redundancy there. The point is, if you read it, it's not PDF. Like I told you, in what context does this paper make any sense to you? Okay, It's not relevant for Atizo. It's not, it's, where is it coming from? Is it just, and this phenomenon has only been shown in lung cancer cell line. Maybe we don't see this in any other cell line. And it's not replicated. So with that, I want you to do a deeper dive and really
Sure.
write a comprehensive analysis, okay? So again, I'm seeing lack of depth here. Now, if you find one article, maybe this is good one and you just start writing about it. No, you have to understand the whole field. Well, see the woods first before you talk about trees. I think that's a repeated theme here. So let's work on that more. Let's see.
Thank you, Dr. Che.
Problem. Go back to the. Okay, I found it again. Okay. Redefining and analyzing. First study to apply all widely used definitions. To redefine and comprehensively analyze patient with HPD or analyze HPD, not patients with. Okay, do I have to look at figures and tables, or do you think it's all accurate?
I guess it's all accurate, but could you only confirm the supplementary table 1, which we reformatted? Because
Yes,
That-
yes, I've been muted, so you already kind of tried to change it from the way that you want it last time, like the indentation and everything. But other than the supplementary table 1, I think the others already being revised.
Okay. I'm gonna say this again. Take out the table. It will be one table here, one table. Take out the tables all here. It will be all one here. 3 columns. There shouldn't be any lines here or here, here or here. Do you see my cursor?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so these lines should go away, okay?
Oh, okay. So for the non-squamous cell carcinoma, it's just like one big
Radical
box.
large cell, these lines should go away. Just indentation, it's still under this category. So it's still under one column. You don't need lines here. You don't need lines here or here. It's too many lines.
Okay, Dr. Che, I will change it again.
You don't need the blank line here. You don't, okay?
so can we remove that gap?
That's what I said.
Or-
You don't need the
Okay.
space here.
Okay.
Okay, anything else you guys want me to see?
Just
this
the
table.
supplementary table 1 and 3. I think table 3 is already also done.
So I want you to make sure there's no typo.
Sure. It's not complete yet, as we are collecting more data. And we just want you to confirm that if the classification we made on the right side, it looks good to you.
Where?
If you go up, you can find the first row of the table. So
This one?
nope. Can I share my screen just for that, or
Okay, I don't know what you're trying to say.
sorry for taking up too much time as always, but yeah, this is last question, so here, as we include all the HPD and not modified HPD
Did you
patients,
share screen?
Do not share your screen, Eugene.
I think it's being shared right now.
Okay.
So for this, can we just make an order like this? We want to classify each patient. Sorry.
Yeah, it looks okay.
Okay.
Okay. Then I
That's
think
all.
that's fine.
Okay, still lot of, I still saw a lot of typos, okay? If you're not ready now, I don't know when your guys gonna be ready. So, make sure it's error-proof, fall-proof. My concern is I look deep enough that I'll find more errors. And it happened to me every time I'm going through the manuscript. So we cannot afford to have reviewers find that, okay? So I know you've worked hard. I do see some progress made. But I want you to really look into it, okay? And spend time making sure it's error-proof, okay?
Sure. Sure.
And you're not just filling up the space to write paper. When you write paper, you have to have a full logic, full understanding of the topic. Do not find one paper and just cite it, just for the sake of filling up the space. That is how I feel. Okay, I want you to build your own logic, make your own story. If you need help, myself, Dr. Minjung is your resource. Okay, the hyper progression story is not easy. It makes you think over and over. What are we doing here? Okay. So I still believe this is a good learning opportunity. You guys are learning, making progress. So I do believe that you'll be better off when you're done. But let's finish it with, with some proof of professionalism here. Okay, I do not want to see more typos. Okay, more errors. And I think we're almost there. Yeah, let's get it done. Hopefully by next week. Everything fall proof, error proof. Okay. And same thing with the Albert Curie's case report. We need to get it out. We cannot wait anymore. We need to get it out. I don't know how hard you guys are working, but you need to set a deadline. My deadline was this week. I was ready. I was waiting for that to be ready and be submitted. Okay. It's okay. You guys are busy with your own things. So set a timeline, make the deadline, and then let us all know, make yourself accountable and work towards that deadline. Okay, you cannot just postpone every time. You have to set deadline, tell us you're gonna be done, publishable quality by this time, and you deliver. Okay? All right. All right, let's move on. I think I spent too much time, but I really wanted to teach you guys all. There's so many lessons to be learned from today's review. So that's why we're doing this. That's why we're recording this, so that no one makes the same error again. Okay, there's a lot to be learned, not second guessing here. I think that was sort of the main point of our discussion today. Okay, so let's go to Haesung.
Thank you, Dr. Che.
Several things to update. So I have 5 things. One of them, I'll start with the DART papers. I do realize it is a priority. I'm trying to coordinate things with Liam. But one question I want to ask was, I'm sure you remember this paper, but we decided the target journals for the 5 cohorts for non-epithelial. I think you told me, but I guess I didn't write it down somehow. Could you give me a recommendation? So for clear cell, it's
Nature Communication, non-epithelial. Ovary was more granulosa cell, right?
Yeah.
So I think we can start with maybe JAMA Oncology.
For non-epithelial.
Yeah, JAMA Oncology short report. And then you can go to same thing, CCR, JITC, in that order.
Okay. And these are all short reports, right?
Yeah.
JTL as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to get at least 1 or 2 out this week, and even more, that would be nice, but there's also ongoing. But do you want this to be the absolute priority, like set everything aside and just focus on this for this week?
So for Liam, ongoing project like the regulatory, moving things forward for a clinical trial, that's #1 priority. Getting it approved, moving things, writing proposals. These are more important. So to move things forward, to make things happen, getting the approval, all that, if there's any necessary groundwork to make that happen, that's always priority. And then if you compare retrospective analysis and then prospective clinical outcome first comes first. That has to come out first, because that will save lives first if that comes out. So that's the priority. Like things like writing, like DART2 proposal. Like writing proposal is priority. Then writing DART results. Results can because we have to move forward, because if opening up trials faster saves lives, it will actually have more patients be treated on it. So that's like the 3 tier. As you think about projects, moving things in the real world, #1, real world report, clinical outcome, #2, retrospective analysis to create hypothesis is #3. So that's your priority. This is not just for Haesung, this is for everybody. But thanks for asking that question.
Sure, I'll move on to the last trial proposal. I got a response from Agenus they said, you know, they're busy with like, you know, upcoming conference, I guess ASCO. So they said they'll reach back in June. I did not hear back from Zencor, so I sent an email out yesterday.
So how about we, so this is from who? This is,
This is Agenus
yeah,
for the bowel.
how about we propose
Proteins.
like a meet and greet meeting at ASCO. Will be a quick 30-minute meeting. Let's arrange that. And then it's optional for Dr. Ock to come and join. And CC Dr. CC Ken Smith. Liam has his email, Ken Smith. Ken S. Smith.
Okay.
So same
And
thing,
then
other company. Let's all have meet and greet meeting for these candidate companies.
I think the candidates so
Is
far.
that a
So
Gen-
you have something scheduled for with Mark. I'm not sure if you have anything else. There's AstraZeneca, Zencor, Agenus is the ones that I've been contacting, but there's GSK, you know, AstraZeneca. I'm not sure where we are. I think the last time we got in contact with GSK was February, and then AstraZeneca was April.
Yeah. So ASCO is now
Where
around
we
the
are in the
corner.
process.
Liam, why don't we have meeting with all five? Is it Regeneron? Let's
Yeah,
just
sorry.
meeting with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 companies.
Oh, with Regeneron.
Yeah, at ASCO. And this is going to be all regarding Lunit collaboration. So invite Ken and Dr. Ock. You know, just like say follow-up discussion regarding the last trial. Or open, you know, meet and greet if it's the first time. For Merck and GSK, it's not first time. AstraZeneca, not first time. It's just to meet and say we are still so interested and let's move forward, kind of putting pressure on that kind of meeting. Okay,
So
thank you.
that's
for
the
following.
last trial. Sure. And this is for the Tempest, sending me and Dr. Jian.
Yeah,
I was a bit confused. So it seems like there's the discovery thing going on and also TAP, but I guess for both, we're waiting for the data. But as I told you, it's already been 3 months. I did tell Liam about it, but but anyways, yeah. So I think we should whether we should be just waiting for the data or they want us to come over. But they did say no, they need to set up legal terms, and then you know proper training, and then they want to set up a schedule.
so
So I'm guessing this is regarding both discovery and TAP, right?
yeah. So this is how I would respond. We're happy to undergo any necessary training. Dr. Che may or may not be present for the meeting, but his presence may not be Dr. Well, I said, you know, his presence is not necessary because this is all the, you know, logistic hurdle tackle type of meeting. So my concern is they, you know, next 6 months goes by, they won't give us data because they're gonna say we're busy. So the Calvin should tell us, do you have estimated time of this data and you know being handed to us so that we can work on the data? If it's going to happen, you know, in this month of May, which is already 6 months time that you were told us, you told us to wait. If it's not going to happen, if you think it's not likely going to happen in the month of May, we're happy to receive all the training necessary to help you guys deliver data to us by us going to your campus and help out. So that's our message. It's going to come
Okay.
this May. I don't think we'll have to do this. If you think it's going to be later than May, for sure, then we're happy to do the training right now. I don't want any more delay. Let's get the training done. If you want any legal language, let's write it. Let's agree on it and move forward. And not lose any time. That's our message.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you want me to contact Calvin directly?
Yeah, you can contact Calvin. Just that I just talk
Yeah,
to them,
yeah,
"Hey,
of
this is
course.
what we want. Let's do that."
Mhm.
You can CC everybody.
Yep, I'll do that. And then this is the thyroid translational data. As you've seen, we have only 9 patients. We have 3 PDs, 3 PRs, and 3 SDs.
Right, and
And then,
so UPR is unconfirmed PR.
correct, it's by iResist.
Yeah, but for the sake of analysis, you can call it PR. It's fine.
Yeah, that's what I did.
Yeah.
For PDL1, it's, you know, it's nearly 0, so I didn't really touch that. I created graphs for the OSPFS by TMB, OSPFS by CNB, copy number variation burden. I didn't touch MSI because you didn't mention. I wasn't sure what to do with this one. I did it also by the BRAF mutation status and also RETs. I did remember you saying that it's like a variant of unknown significance, but I still did just in case. And then for mTOR, we only had 1 patient with the mutation, so I did not stratify by mTOR. And so these are the results. So the first row is OS, second row is PFS. This is by TMB. The first column is the cutoff is median. The median right here is 7 point. It's almost like 7 mutations per megabase. The second column is by the tertiles, like the 1/3 cutoffs. And then third is by the FDA cutoff, 10 mutations per megabase. And if you look at the p-values, these are all not significant. The second tertiles kind of behave weirdly. That can also be seen in the CNB. Same thing, OS, PFS, first column is median, it cut off by median, which is 38 percentile. And I also looked at many papers and it seemed like CNV burden is measured by percentile, but if that's not correct, let me know. And then second is tertiles. This one was significant, the P was 0.004. But again, not many patients, and the second tertile behaves strangely.
Right, it has to be a linear, I think, correlation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's significant.
Okay. Again, OS, PFS by BRAF and then by RETs. Again, not very significant. And then this is non-responder versus responder. This is no disease control versus disease control. But again, this is like, you know, it shows a trend towards, I mean, I guess that's kind of obvious, but disease control has better survival.
Yeah.
But this is kind of strange, like responders and non-responders, they kind of, you know, there's not much difference.
Hmm.
So if you include stable disease, there's something more significant.
Yeah, so when you compare OS, you usually do it through Kaplan-Meier curve.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is one way to look at it, but most case, you know, by mutation status or by different cutoffs. So I understand that there's no pattern, but if you can show me the Kaplan-Meier curve.
For like all of these stratifications
Yes.
or just this?
Yes.
For-
For all. So Kaplan-Meier curve for PFS and OS. Let's go back to the Excel file.
I use these values, not the log values. I hope that's correct. I think that's what we typically do.
Log value, and this is the total mutation. Okay, this is what we say TMB, right? That's log TMB.
Mm.
That TMB is pretty high for thyroid cancer. Interesting.
Yeah, this one is very high and this one too.
103. Interesting. How did
Let's see, I think this one was anaplastic. Yeah. But the other one was papillary. This one was papillary.
huh?
Very advanced. Both were very advanced.
Hmm.
One was metastatic. I think this is too, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, we had like what? How many patients? Like,
9.
no, the total cohort.
Oh, it was like nearly 900
Is it like
or
30 or?
oh, the core number was 52.
Yeah, it's a shame that we were able to get only 9 patient NGS. Like, it's probably insufficient tissue and all that. So you guys know how hard it is to do translational research. Like, we do it through SWOG and CI money, and we did what we can to mandate it. And at the end of the day, this is what we have.
I wonder why. Like, so I guess these patients didn't get because it for thyroid, isn't it like thyroidectomy, like either partial or complete? I feel like there would be enough tissue.
I mean,
But I guess anaplasty. not-
it's all mandated, so they have to send us, but
Mm.
we also, you know, we can't do anything if they send us less than that, or bad quality, or all mostly necrotic tissue. You know, there's
Mm.
nothing we can do. There's a lot of quality issue here. So in
Mm.
real world, this is what you get. Yeah, I mean, we could have done better, but yeah, it's sad. But anyway, I think you could do it. So responder, you can do so. Okay, so there's many ways to do it. Maybe Dr. Chion can help you do this.
Mhm.
Responder, non-responder. So how many responders do you have?
3.
So three
That's 3 PR.
versus 6. So if you count stable disease for 24 weeks, you can call them responder too by different definition of responder. So that's gonna be a different number for you.
Oh yeah, I think it was like one of these. Maybe this one.
Yeah, so did they give you that definition? What was 0.2 to 3.23?
Yeah. I think it was 2.2 they said. Um, so 2.2, yeah, I think this is what you're talking about, greater than 6 months versus everything else. So yeah, so it's this one. If we do that, with that definition, it's 5 responders.
Yeah, so 5 to 5. So you can do responder, non-responder, and then look at the same bar graph for TMB, copy number, and percentage of RET or mTOR mutation. Okay, so you can look at it that way too. by different definition of response, you can do 3 versus 7, 5 versus 5. So you have it in the x-axis. And then the y-axis would be TMB or a copy number or percentage of mutation. So that's
In a
one.
bar format
In a box plot too. It
or
doesn't matter.
box?
Yeah.
Oh.
So Kaplan-Meier is one. Doing it that way by using different definitions of response is the other way. What else? You can look at x-axis as TMB and y-axis as copy number and see if there's any correlation there. You can do the BRAF as x-axis, y-axis as TMB and see if there's any correlation there. So you can look at other variables and see association between them.
And for those, it would be a box plot format, just like this one.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it.
So
And-
can you show me that email one more time? The definition.
this one?
Yeah.
You can do Kaplan-Meier curve by histology too. I know it's one patient, anaplastic is one, medullary is one.
So I think. Oh, sorry.
That was part of the non-TM, I think.
So I think UPR means unconfirmed PR, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Dr. Chick, don't we need one that excludes like UPR?
Hmm.
Or should we just include that?
PR, UPR plus stable disease. For the sake of this analysis, it's okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's how you define it. You can, in the method section, you just define that this is how we did our analysis. Go with it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Yeah, Haesung, so because I'll be gone tomorrow, why don't you do that this afternoon and show me, and then we can kind of pick and choose which graph to use. Yeah.
Okay, and then for the
Hmm.
for cutoffs, do you have any preference, or should I just try all?
Try all.
Okay, I knew you would say that.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have anything else to add before I move on?
No.
Okay. So the final thing is the rejection paper. I've already given you an update, but a couple questions. My exclusion criteria is like there's a lot in my criteria. So in the paper, like do I need to just like talk about every single reason and like what and how many numbers were included for each? So it's either because, it's because that patient had previous malignancy or previous transplant or simultaneous like multiple organ transplantation or like missing variables, stuff like that. Because some papers do, and some papers just say, oh, we excluded these many patients for these, for general reasons. Just wondering if I need to keep track of like how many, patients I've deleted.
So from the data set, in the method section, you do have to explain why you excluded this group and how many of them were excluded. You do have to make a supplemental figure or tape, describing that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me talk about The transplant type. So this is kind of it's kind of what you've seen before, but I did add a couple more as
Yeah.
I've gone through the raw file. One question was I found the mean values, but a lot of papers also do median and then put the interquartile range and then set that as like the cutoff for these two groups. Do you have a preference?
Oh, I see what you mean. Median year is fine.
Median, okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
And by the way, these clinical values are only collected at the first transplant, and I couldn't find any variable for the second transplant if that happened.
I
So
see.
the age at second transplant, etc. So I initially thought of creating another table with these variables, and then for the columns, I would put like first transplant and then second transplant and see if there's any difference between the two. But since I don't have these variables for the second, I just can't do that. So that's why I decided to add the retransplant like this way, and then graft failure, retransplant, death as like the outcome for those with graft rejection, and then death as the result as the outcome for PTN. Does that make sense to you?
Graft failure. They could have graft failure. Okay, graft failure without death. Is that the first one then?
No, this is just including just any patients who experience graft failure and any patients who experience
Okay.
transplant. Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. So I would just like next to ABO, HLA, graft rejection, like so just put an asterisk and then put that in the footnote at saying at first transplant. You don't have to say it all the time. Just-
Oh, okay,
yeah.
okay. Or I could also make another row with like retransplant, yes, no. But I thought this would be more intuitive, like more like easier to understand.
'Cause, like, and then I guess are all retransplant due to rejection?
No, but it could be other reasons too, but it's here, I'll show you this is the Excel file I got after running the codes. Pertaining to the retransplant, I only get date values. There's no other value I can derive from the file.
As to why it was done?
Yeah, so I don't know the indications for retransplant, but I can kind of infer that if these patients experience like graft failure, then if this is one and this is also one, then I mean, maybe we can say probably because of failure.
Sure. Yeah. So I think what you created is fine.
Okay. And then for transplant type, this is kind of tricky because for heart, this is the heart transplant types. So it looks like the heart can either be the donor heart can either replace the recipient heart or they can coexist. It can be the donor heart can be placed next to the recipient heart. So both the failing heart and the the new heart would be in
Oh.
place together. You know what I mean? So in that case, it's not exactly it's hard to say it is single, but we want to know this because because we want to, if we're double, we want to clear out any confounders, right?
Yeah,
But
so this is what I would
there.
say. When I mean the original recipient's organ remaining or not is not a problem. We're not going to factor that into our what we're gonna say double means a more than one organ received. And if it's double lung, we don't want to call it double. It's still lung, okay? When we say double, it's two organs, two different organs getting transplanted.
Oh, but I thought, so I excluded all the multi-organ transplant recipients because I thought it would kind of muddy the picture. So I took out multi-organ transplant and previous transplant and previous memory.
Yes,
Okay.
in UNOS, they distinguish double means really bilateral.
Oh,
Like
bilateral.
yes, lung and kidney, but
Yeah.
multi-organ means that different, more than
Different
two
organs.
different organs.
I see.
Yeah, exactly.
I see. So double only refers, well, the heart doesn't have double transplant, right? So it's,
Yeah. So double only
Yeah.
refers to kidney and lung.
yeah. So then
And in that case, maybe it's not significant.
then you can put a, put a asterisk saying bilateral organ transplant only limited to kidney, lung. What else? Both?
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, just say it because when we say double, we just think about number two.
Mm. So
And
I
then,
guess
and then more
keep
than
this.
one organ transplantation is excluded from the data set. Just make sure you say that in the methods and
Yeah.
maybe in the footnote as well, just so that people know.
Okay, in the footnote, that's fine. Yeah, that I thought it would kind of muddy the picture. Too many things sounded.
Sure.
What else? Yeah, just I need some advice on how to incorporate the mild graft rejection as well as the retransplant data into our analysis. It's kind of tricky because there is data for severe graft rejection leading to graft failure, but for mild cases, there's no data for like when the rejection was identified. Yeah, I guess that's the biggest
Yeah.
factor we should be considering.
So what's your question?
Like how, I don't know how, I'm not sure how to incorporate into this previous analysis. Like, do I divide this rejection into mild and severe, or should I only analyze severe rejection cases? And then what would the outcome be? Is it just rejection and malignancy, or is it also retransplant? And that's the thing.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so for this rejection, column, do I divide this into mild and severe and then compare the two? Or should I only factor in the severe rejection cases because we have more data pertaining to the severe cases?
So this graph is graph rejection and you have,
This one is only the severe cases. So previously we only looked at severe rejection cases, but I just added the mild cases, but I'm not sure what to do with them.
so this graph has only severe?
Yeah, this one is previous analysis and it only includes the severe cases.
And how did that happen?
Because the UNOS data focuses on failure, and I looked at the cause of failure and only picked out the ones that experienced rejection as a cause of the failure.
I see.
And then the mild cases I just deduced, like there were other like rejection factors and whether they were treated or biopsy confirmed.
I see.
Yeah.
So this graph
There's a lot of
rejection
assuming.
is what led to graft failure? Like,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, So here's what I would do. For this paper, put any graft rejection, meaning it could be mild or severe. If it's described as rejection, put all of them for this table purpose. Now we need another supplementary table now. Now, forget about the post-transplant. We need a table, 3 columns. One is mild graft rejection, no evidence of graft failure described. Okay. So, and then this one in this table, which is graft rejection that led to graft failure. Okay. And the third column is any graft rejection. So it's like when you, it's think about toxicity clinical trial data. We have grade 1, 2, and grade 3, 4, and then we have any grade toxicity, right? So,
Okay.
you know, the right side is just the total of the mild and severe, right? So what we want to see is there any dose response relationship? You know, as the rejection gets more severe, do we see any change in PTM association? You know what I mean?
And stratify by variables, these clinical variables, right?
So yeah. So these clinical variables will still be there, but the 3 columns would be mild rejection, severe rejection, and total rejection. The total rejection is what I want here, side by side for this regular table, but I want different table for supplemental. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah, well, for this one, it's not a problem, but for this one, time to rejection, this is a problem because I just don't have the data for when the mild rejection was diagnosed. I only know the severe, when the severe rejection was diagnosed and led to failure.
I see. Then, so that mild rejection, there's no date.
There's no date. No, I looked at it multiple times.
I see. It's okay, then just, that's what we can do. And you can, in the method, just say for these rejection, we only have graft failure caused by graft rejection. So we use that date.
Okay, so for this table, I'll do time to, I guess, like, kind of like severe rejection leading to failure. And then, but for this overall,
No, I wouldn't use
One-
mild or
alright.
severe. I would not use that terminology. I would
Okay,
use time, because that's how the data was
yeah,
collected. Time to graft failure due to graft rejection. That's the accurate term, right?
is it wording? Maybe rejection related failure? I'm
Time,
not sure what the best
yeah,
term
time to graft reject. Or you can do time to graft rejection, and then you can put asterisk there, and in the footnote, graft
Okay,
rejection
yeah,
that led to graft failure.
yeah. Okay, so for this one, I'll do the severe cases, but for this one, I'll do overall rejection versus PTM. And then the supplemental, it'll be mild versus severe versus any rejection.
Yes.
Okay, and then for the time, I guess same thing for the time variant Cox as well as the survival curves. Since I don't have a date for the mild cases, it'll just be the severe cases.
Yes.
And then for the retransplant cases, there is the date value. What would you like me to do with the retransplant cases?
Oh, is it time to retransplant?
Yeah, I can find that. These are all empty, by the way. I just created them. This is what we only have.
Yeah, I guess for this paper. Do you know what percentage actually had retransplant?
Let's see. So I don't have the total data set yet, but I can do a quick math.
But maybe for kidney, you know,
Yeah. Wait. Only among those with graft failure, or among over total? So over total patients, or over only the graft failure patients?
so remember we were looking at overall survival as an outcome for a lot of like a rejection and post-transplant malignancy.
Mhm.
And you know, I think retransplanting can be a confounder. So one, I think you know, doing the same analysis, just taking out the retransplant patients might make sense. As you know, it's like, think of it as a hypersensitivity, not hyper, like a sensitivity analysis.
So I just did the math. So 35% of failure patients received a retransplant. So are
Hmm,
you saying take out the 35% and analyze only the ones who didn't receive
right, the
retransplant?
main, yeah, just the main
Oh,
tables and see if the results are same. Even if we take out,
okay. To do a secondary analysis, I see.
right, and that could be all supplemental, you know.
So do the secondary analysis, so redo the time dependent COGS as well as the survival curves, or
Mm.
also the baseline characteristics and everything like that?
No, no need for baseline characteristics.
Okay, just the outcome stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can do that. Another thing I was a little worried is because is that since I only have the retransplant dates, I can't be sure that the patients who don't have any dates recorded, that they did not receive any retransplant. I just can't be sure. But
oh,
for now, I did leave them as 0 as blank.
oh,
Can
okay,
I just assume 0?
I think so.
I agree.
Okay. I guess another problem, there were separate date values and there were also separate failure values, but like multiple versions of these, like the graph failure status. But it just seems like some of them were just so wrong. So I just defines failure as, I defined it as 1 if this patient had a graph failure date. Is that also safe assumption or no?
But what made you concerned?
Because patients who did not even end up receiving transplants had failure recorded as one of their outcomes, which is very strange, right?
They did not receive transplant?
So patients only on the waiting list but did not end up receiving a transplant apparently experienced graft failure, which does not make sense. Unless, I don't know, unless they received something else that was not recorded by UNOS. But yeah, there were just some very weird values. So I decided to take out that variable.
Okay,
Like if you see here, this is my version. This is from UNOS, one of the variables, stat and status. I'm not sure how to show.
Patient who received the heart transplantation from other country and then came here in the waiting
Oh.
list. Probably because the UNOS is only defined in the US
Next.
data. So
Yeah. Yeah, so this one, I did take out all the patients who did not end up receiving transplant. So these are only patients who did receive transplant. But for this one, there are so many values. This is like 1,500,000 patients, but a lot of them don't have any date.
Date of graft
Only half of them have dates.
for graft failure.
Yeah, this is, but then GF stat is another way they measured whether the failure occurred, but this one is very different. Most of these patients actually do have date value. So for the definition of these codes, it's either whether, like failure occurred or not, 1 versus 0, but I get very different results. So I wasn't sure what to trust. And so I just created a new value myself. They had the date value.
actually,
and I
Jisang
just-
also discussed with this problem because the V column is matched to GF date. They are matched.
Okay.
So
I'll
we
trust
choose
this
a V
one.
column rather than W column.
Okay,
Okay, then I'll do this, and then if they don't have any date values, then I'll exclude them. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. Okay, yeah, I guess that's it for now. Yeah, just to show you briefly, because Dr. Jiyoung was also curious. Patients with previous malignancy for kidney transplant, there were 2,900 patients, and then previous transplant, 56,000 patients, multi-organ transplant, 11,000 patients, and then having malignancy or retransplant as indication for transplant was 3,000, more than 3,000. So a lot of patients that I have to exclude again. And this is just pertaining to kidney. So yeah.
great. Well, yeah, I commend your efforts to go in and really, making sure you understand the data and make sure the exclusion, done in the right way. So yeah, I think you did the right thing, and so great job. And I think we're learning a lot, and next time let's talk about what we're learning from Dr. Shin and Dr. Choi as well. But I think we're running out of time. Let's move on to Jian.
Mm. There are my projects. First article is submitted to Clinical Transplantation again. We are waiting, and the other one, actually, I missed Professor Bharat's email. So if we get reject from this article again, I will address all the comments from reviewers, and then we'll take another journal. Look for Google. And regarding review article, on last weekend, I submitted revision file. Still, it is in the editor level. But I think we can expect accept because it is a revision, and I really made the effort to write in answers one by one. So we'll see.
Yep.
Okay, the next is a radiomics. We collected all clinical data, and then we started uploading DECOM file to OneDrive as well as ImageTrier. There was some error, but today I confirmed that the image files are safely uploaded to ImageTrier drive as well. And then this one is that I asked you to confirm. So could you see and confirm whether I understood this groups correctly.
So based on resist, we don't just call it resist. It's based on resist, but it's how you define it. So no one can say this is responder. It's not a agreed upon. So if you
Oh,
say in your article, I'm going to define responder as CRPRSD,
okay.
yeah. So this is
Uh,
your own way of
okay.
defining.
I will describe. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's like the responder at first scan. You can, or responder, or best response. Best response of, of no progression. Which is PR.
Mhm.
Yeah. Versus other progression. You can do that.
Mhm.
So again, I'm always saying, do it all different ways and see what gives you better. Best.
Yes.
Yeah.
I will do everything and I will select this somewhat which shows the significant.
Right. And durable and objective response is, yeah, that's CRPR is fine. And then you have durable disease control. And these are CRPR SD at least 24. So you can have PR, but then they progress week 12. That's not durable disease control. So still the CRPR has to be disease controlled at least 24 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So that's called durable disease control. You can still call that durable responder.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
So
okay.
what I'm saying is, yes, if resist terminology response is
Mhm.
CRPR only,
Mhm.
but for the paper, you could say, this is how I define it, and then go with it. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm. And we just made the table 1 with the clinical pathology variables. I just highlighted the variables. This is based on the resist at first CT scan. So I just divided as a responder with the CRPR-SD and non-responder with PDP. And here, there was no significance regarding PD-L1 and histology type, but it was about in tumor stage and neutrophil lymphocyte ratio and platelet count and type of treatment. This is what we've done.
So can you go up again?
Mhm.
So this is 46 patient. And this responder, which definition did you use again?
At first CT scan, the
At
patient
first-
showed the CRPR-SD.
SD. So you included SD,
Mhm.
SD at first scan.
You want to divide the CRPR versus the SDPD?
It has been used, but it's not commonly used. Because SD first scan can mean growth of, let's say, 19% growth is still SD at first scan. Right?
Mhm.
But if SD is over 24 weeks, then we like to call it responder. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I think it's better to use
Mhm.
CRPR SD 24 weeks
Oh, okay.
definition.
Actually, I'm still in the first row. Now I'm working on second and third and fourth. So
okay.
I will make every tables and I will show you, and then I'll get confirmed from.
Sounds good. So because if it's first scan, then you know you're missing.
I understood.
Yeah, yeah. Because usually the responder is less than non-responder. That's why to reviewers this not ideal. But anyway, what did you learn? The trend that everything is not. But I guess the responders had more.
Lower
More-
stage, yeah, stage 3.
More stage 3
Mhm.
and higher TMB.
There wasn't statistical significance
Oh,
in
okay.
TMB.
Or
Mhm.
NRL was
Less than
lower.
4.4.
Lower, which is good. More lymphocyte. So
And
platelet.
here as well, normal range is more found in responders.
Yeah, so that's important because higher platelet means more immune suppression. And then
This is type of treatment.
responders had more chemo plus immuno.
Exactly.
I mean, biologically, it all makes sense. Okay, anything else?
No, radio mix, I'll do more, then we'll show you that.
Okay.
And want to move on to next project. This isn't the project, but I'm trying to find the author's
Yeah.
information.
Oh,
Yeah, I
Cheers.
just wanted to confirm their face. These are the accurate people.
Yeah.
I could.
Yeah,
I
they're
could-
all same. Alexander Hoffman.
Yes. Isn't that the guy? Yeah.
Where is Alexander Hoffman in the?
He's working UCLA now.
Where- He's in UCLA. It's Andrew, not Alexander.
Oh, I see. I found a
Yeah.
different person. Okay.
Yeah. So
Oh.
you can. So he was a first author in under Piping Liu. So he was a PhD student in
Okay.
under Piping Liu.
Okay. I can ask him.
But he might be still in Northwestern. He might be.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So go to Piping Liu's lab homepage, find him.
Okay. All right. And most of information I found about Peter George. I think he's still working in foundation medicine. So I guess I can ask Neil Patterson or Alex Robertson whether they can give me his email.
Yeah.
And I asked because this journal requires more than 300 dpi resolution for figure. I need original figure. So I asked Andrew whether he has the original figure.
Yeah. Just
And-
CC me on all that communication. Yeah.
Okay, I will. Yeah. And the next one is ctDNA. I'm still looking at the research, and I sent the email to Prodison yesterday. So I'm waiting to respond.
Okay,
So,
So yeah, let's also do whatever we can and then meet up at ASCO. Let's plan for, because you're gonna be at ASCO, we'll meet with Shidong and the team and well, that, I'm hoping that would be the, like a meeting to really kind of finalize the. So who's coming from Korea?
Sujong,
Sujong? What
Mhm.
about Dr. Che?
he canceled.
He's not coming?
Yeah, he's not coming. He canceled the flight ticket.
Oh, okay. He can join through Zoom if he wants, because I think
Mhm,
it's
Mhm.
important to talk to Shidong
mhm.
together.
I will ask.
But it, like, yeah, the time may be difficult. If it's, but anyway, we'll set up meeting without him, but we'll also invite him if he wants to come in, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Oh yeah, Maria's not here. Liam, do you have things to go over or rather?
I would rather go over them in person with you in the afternoon, but I also know that Dr. Eugen has another paper that she would like to go over with you.
Oh, okay. Let's do it.
It's the Bolt review paper. I'm gonna,
Yeah, send me the link. Let's go over it.
sure, in the chat box.
You put it in the chat box?
Sorry, my computer isn't working really well, but yeah, I'll type it right now. Is it being shared? Is it
Yeah.
being loaded?
Okay, let me share screen. Okay, bilateral orthotopic lung transplantation for a patient with lung-limited invasive mucinous adenocarcinoma, a case-based literature review. Okay. So
For the keyword, yeah,
the blue ones are things you added?
right. Blue parts are reviewed and there's some question regarding table and the titles are revised as well. And there are some paragraphs that you gave quite a lot of comments, so that's where I mostly worked on. And for the keywords, I try to suggest as much as I can, but wanna get your input as well. Oh, for this part, sorry, can you remain on that page? I saw a comment that you want the mucin in the title of this paragraph, so I came up with this mucin, histochemistry of invasive mucinous adenocarcinoma of lung, and see if that's
Histochemistry. What is histochemistry?
or the paragraph itself explains about the biology of IMA, and but focusing on the mucin related part, expression of mucin related gene or something like that.
I would say patho, um. is- m- Microscopic or pathological? Or molecular. Now, these are all molecules. So,
Then
or these are all you're talking about protein expression here, including mucin.
right.
Immunohistochemistry. Protein expression or protein protein expression landscape. Protein.
mm,
Immunohistochemistry. Protein expression level. Protein expression landscape of invasive mucinous adenocarcinoma of lung. So I'll do
mm,
that, okay?
okay.
So I guess if you read Dr. Chion's review paper, the point is the survival is not much different, whether it's cancer indication or non-cancer indication. But if you read this, it feels like the current treatment is not optimized.
Mm,
The nuance says, it's inferior outcome. That's what I read.
okay. I mean, in terms of survivor, they're comparable, but still like recurrence rates are very high, and maybe I should write about survivor before this recurrence rate.
So I guess COPD transplant, would COPD recur?
Mm,
Lupus lung, if you transplant a scleroderma lung, would the scleroderma recur? I don't know. I'm asking you the question. Anyway, it's same thing. Liver, you get hepatitis again. If you transplant. What I'm trying, I think it's better to, so to say the data is limited, and this, and then the recurrence and survival that has been reported is in this range, and there is, because the data is limited, there's a need to investigate further, gather more data to better assess the outcome, or just leave it like that.
okay.
Not, it is,
Okay, yeah, I got it.
so Signatera is the assay name, and you need a company name, which is Natera.
Sure.
Signatera, you
okay.
can put, I don't know, upper R, which is a trade name for the assay, and then Natera is a company name. It's like a Foundation One, Foundation Medicine in Boston, and so you need to put.
Sure. I'll do that.
So write the acronyms here, because people know this society as an acronym too. So write both.
Okay. Sorry, it's actually, yeah, sorry about that. And actually, I want to ask you about the category of this paragraph. So
Where
I generally describe the treatment for IMA briefly under the name of treatment for IMA of lung, and then I try to describe more about the lung transplantation as a treatment for IMA of lung. And I saw you commented on that this part should be under the treatment paragraphs, but can I make it as like separate paragraph with same level of title, or
I don't understand your question.
oh, so currently I try to make an indent of this title to show this is sub category of the treatment for IMA of long groups. And I'm wonder, I can just make this as like separate group, the same as like treatment for IMA of long.
You can say.
Overview or
mm, Current and future of systemic treatment for IMA. Okay,
Mhm.
so that could be the title.
Okay.
And then you can leave it, because this is not systemic treatment, you can leave it as another title.
Okay, thank you.
But are you really describing IMA here? Because most of them are not IMA. In fact, I think Albert Curie was the first IMA case. Dr. Chia, is that true?
Yes, I think so. There wasn't any case that performed in IMA.
So Eugene, that's your point. This is the world's first IMA lung transplant case. Albert Curie. Everything
Mhm.
was BAC, but nothing specified it as IMA.
Okay, understood.
So I would say for the title, because you were talking about all lung transplant history for cancer, for lung limited non-small cell lung cancer. Okay,
Sure.
is that what the title is? Lung limited, well, this is my case. But what you describe here is everything here. Not just mucinous. Did you put non-mucinous here?
Right, right.
In our review? What do you mean?
In this paper, so when you go to the supplementary table 1, when there is enough information about mucinous and non-mucinous BAC, I try to dissect the case based on that histology type, and then I did kind of simple like add up. I know that you commented that we should not pull any data, but wondering whether those simple adding up is pulling or not. So when you go to supplementary table 1, there's each number of patients who recurred according to non-mucinous and mucinous BAC. So technically saying IMA means, because as IMA means like the mucinous BAC, so I thought it would be meaningful to compare non-mucinous and mucinous BAC.
So it is not meaningful.
Okay.
There's such thing as publication bias. So if you're pulling the case reports, you
Mhm.
cannot compare.
Okay.
You
So-
can report, you can still report the raw numbers. There are there are, this number of case reports. So among these case reports, they reported, how many cases out of how many cases were mucinous, non-mucinous. You can still describe the raw numbers, period. You can't say it was greater, less than, because they weren't done in the same study. They weren't controlled. So you cannot make that kind of comparison statement. You can only say this is the number of cases reported. This is the percentage that had recurrence, period.
Sure. Yeah. For table 2, so we have one figure and 3 tables and 1 supplementary table. For table 2, I originally separated double lung transplantation and single lung transplantation, but I revised it. Yeah, like I think the revised one will be, yeah, that one. Sorry, could you go down to check that table? So instead of diagnosis row column, I put type of surgery and indicate whether DLT or SLT was performed. And
So table 2. This one. And this one. Why do you have 2 types?
I kept original one just in case, just to show you the difference. And
I see.
yeah, that one, this one is the final one. I think when I upload this file from my MacBook, from the document itself, the format of table 3 got ruined. Well, I will restore it.
So because you've done the single and double, you should do it same way.
Okay. Sure.
I guess this is by chronological order right here. Well, if you have it chronological, then why don't you say it's double single? So we don't know here. It's all single?
No, I I think they are mixed up here. So I will,
Just, yeah. Add it in the one column. That's okay, because it's chronological already, it's fine. Okay, you're almost there. Because
Thank
this
you.
is translate Dr. Jian, please check for any errors. Okay, I gotta go to next
Dr.
meeting.
Che, you have a meeting.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so I'll conclude here. Dr.